Hello there and welcome to Community Life. Here we talk with the community experts about their life journeys and how they came into the community world. And today we have a conversation with Pat Cooney, a saxophone and bass guitar pro with a strong musical performance background spanning close to 30 years, a community engineer with 20 years of leadership and team management experience, a sarcasm master, and the person who hates Between Two Watercoolers meetups but keeps coming almost every week. So, hello, Pat.
Hi, Yuri. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm super happy to have you here because we always meet in the Between Two Watercoolers
hmm
meetups, and like it's super close, super small like conversations, and
Yeah.
never had a chance to get to know you better. So tell me this first question. What did you feel when you met a real life tarantula in the wild?
um. So I will admit that I am a bit of an arachnophobe, and usually if I run into spiders in the house here, it's not the most comfortable moment for me. Um, I try to capture them and set them outside rather than kill them because I do recognize that they're very beneficial. I just prefer to maybe not have them in my bedroom. Um, when I came across that one tarantula in the wild, I wasn't freaked out or anything. It was just it's something that I would never get to see walking along the streets and sidewalks here in Canada, right? It's not a native species, so it was more just like a fascination of like, holy cow, that's a tarantula, and it's just there on the sidewalk, just hanging out like a squirrel would back home, but this is a tarantula. So it was pretty cool. I mean, I didn't get super close to it or anything like that. It's not like I wanted to pet it, but it was pretty neat to see just because that it was such a different experience. It's nothing I'm ever going to experience here at home.
I'm curious why, but you already answered. But my second question was, did you try to feed it nuts? But
No,
I guess
no,
no, no, for sure.
no. I kept a very healthy distance to make sure it didn't jump on my face.
Like in those movies. I
Yeah.
understand you. So, I also love spiders, but far from me, far away from me. So let's start from the beginning. Tell me about your parents. Who are they?
My parents. Well, I will immediately start with the fact that I'm adopted. So a lot of people will get hung up on who my parents are because they don't really appreciate the difference between the people who birth you and the people who raise you. So my parents are the people who raised me, my adoptive parents. My birth parents, I can't tell you a thing about who they are. I don't know anything about them. But the people who raised me, two very, very wonderful people, as far as I'm concerned. I'm big fans of both of them. And one thing that I do find kind of interesting about that being somebody born here in Canada is that both of my parents are from the United States. They both came here when they were young adults. My mom came to Canada just because she found a job here, and I guess it's that she found a job that she liked here in Canada before she was able to find one in the U.S. So it's that was, I think, really her reason for emigrating was just she found the right kind of work that she was looking for. My dad came to Canada because he was a draft dodger. He was choosing to come to Canada rather than go fight in the Vietnam War. And then they both met in Canada, which I think is actually pretty cool to have two Americans meet and fall in love and start a family in Canada. And then shortly after that, actually, I can't even tell you how long. I don't know what year they got married, so I don't know how long it was before I came along. But I know that they tried to have children naturally, and that didn't work out. So then they decided to adopt, and then I come along. So there you go. I'm definitely fans of both of them. My dad was a huge civil rights activist in the United States before he came to Canada. So he was involved in all that civil rights stuff that was going on in the 60s, as well as the anti-war and anti-poverty movements going on there, and just the stories he has and the stuff that he did. I just wish that I was able to do half the amount of things that he did, but different times and different place, and maybe I'm just not as strong of a human being as he is. So.
Did they ever tell you they wanted to come back to the US?
No. So, I mean, dad didn't want to return just because of his relationship around getting drafted. And though I am eligible for American citizenship, having two American parents, he never got citizenship for me or for my sister, um, because the way that the laws are set up is that even if we aren't residents of the United States, if we actually have citizenship of the United States, we'd still be eligible for the draft. Now, I think he appreciated the fact that the chances of us getting drafted would be, they would probably be pulling up Boy Scouts before they were going to be calling me. But it was, I think, a political decision on his part that he didn't want his children to be eligible for the draft. And I think a lot of that just fueled. He had created a home for himself in Canada and didn't feel any reason to necessarily go back. My mom, I think very much in the same way, she had developed a life and a family for herself in Canada and didn't feel any reason to go back to the United States. But where dad, being a draft dodger, got his Canadian citizenship as fast as he possibly could, my mom never did. And the reason for that was she felt that she didn't need to be like owned by a specific country. She felt like, I'm a citizen of the world. I don't need to have citizenship in fine. I've got citizenship as an American citizen because I was born there, but I live in Canada now, and I don't, why do I need to, suddenly become a citizen here? So she had what was known at the time as a landed immigrant status, and I think they've actually changed the name of that here in Canada to permanent resident, I think is what the term is now. And I can't remember if I think she had the ability to vote with that status, but I'm not 100% sure. I could be wrong. About that. But I do remember, I don't know, maybe when I was like 16 or something, her car got broken into, her purse got stolen, and that included all of her identification. And as she was trying to get her driver's license back and her other cards back and all that type of stuff, not having that Canadian citizenship proved exceptionally challenging for her. So then she was just like, all right, fine, I'll get the stupid Canadian citizenship. so she became a citizen at that point, mostly just in case her purse ever got stolen again, it would be easier for her to get all of her ID back. Since then, they've actually both renounced their U.S. citizenship. And the only reason why they did that is because the U.S. tax laws are set up. This has got to be really boring for anybody who's listening in, but the U.S. tax laws are set up that if you are a U.S. citizen, regardless of where you reside, regardless of where you're drawing your income from, if you make over a certain amount of income per year, you owe taxes in the United States, even if you never got a single penny from an American corporation. Even if you're not spending a single penny in the United States, you still owe. And because of that still owing, it means that you do have to file your taxes with the US government every year. And they never did. I don't think they were even aware that they had to. So they now had, 30 something years or whatever it was of unfiled taxes with the US government. And they were looking at that. Plus there's all these rules around when they pass on this tax for inheritance and all this type of stuff. And they were just looking at, and this is ridiculous, that they didn't have any intentions of going back. And why do they have to deal with all this tax stuff? Because they don't live there anymore. They don't have lives there anymore and stuff like this. So they just said, forget it. And they both gave up their US citizenship. So now at this point, finally, this happened 6 or 7 years ago. They're now just fully Canadian citizens. They no longer hold any dual citizenship whatsoever.
Understand. And what year you had when you were adopted?
I was like 4 months old.
4 months
when I was
old.
adopted. Yeah.
So I'm really curious how your parents decided to have they had idea that they will tell you right away, or they were like keeping a secret? So how did you feel when they told you about that?
I grew up always knowing it. So I've got no memory of them ever disclosing it. It was something that I just grew up always aware of. When I was younger, we celebrated both my birthday and then adoption day, which was the day that they actually got me. And that was another day of celebration, much like a birthday kind of thing. So yeah, that was just always part of me and growing up and my understanding of who I was and my role in the family.
You know, I'm one of those people who would love to have 2 birthdays in a year. And I feel like you're this kind of person. So I'm so good. I have so good jealousy for you. So
well, I think I can't speak for anybody else or what their experience has been like being either parents that have adopted a child or a child who has been adopted. But I think it's really healthy to just always have that out there that you were adopted. And one, there's never a risk of like suddenly the person's an adult and they find out that their whole childhood was a lie because they were adopted or anything like that. But
yeah.
also, I mean, why wouldn't you want to celebrate this decision that this family makes, that they want to bring in a child into their family? That seems to me like a real reason for celebration, and why you would want to honor that anniversary year after year.
Yeah, that's really cool. And like my parents are divorced, so my father, like I don't know him like since 5 years old or something like that. And sometimes I have these thoughts: should I discover who he is or should not? Is he alive or not? So I do not know anything about him. So have you ever had these thoughts about discovering who are your like nature parents, or how to call them?
Yeah, birth parents is the term
Yeah.
that I use. I guess other people might use biological parents or natural parents or something like that. No, it's never been a thing for me. I get asked that a lot. Pretty much anybody who finds out that I'm adopted will ask that question. It was never a thing for me, just because, I mean, who are they? I could have met them 30 times already walking down the street. They're just people. And I mean, great, I got their genes, I guess. We'll find out. I mean, maybe that whole family's prone to like cancer at the age of 60 and I'm a walking time bomb. I don't know. I suppose if I ever did meet them, all I can say is thank you. I ended up in an absolutely fantastic family. I feel very, very fortunate, and I feel very fortunate that the people that had me biologically realized that they were probably not in a position in their life where they could really raise a child and do it in a way that they wanted to do. And they felt that the best thing that they could do for that kid was to put him in a home where, they could get the upbringing that they wanted for that child. So I landed in a fantastic home with a fantastic set of parents and a fantastic family. And, I won the lottery, really. So if I ever met them, it would just be, thanks.
Thank
it worked
you very
out
much.
really well.
Yeah, yeah, it's really nice. And what is the first memory of childhood that comes to your mind right now?
It, I think, is playing in the backyard of the house that we lived in at the time. I had this plastic, I think it was made by like Fisher Price, which may not be a brand that you're aware of over there in Europe,
Yeah.
but this plastic horse that was large enough that I could ride on it. And I think it had like wheels, so I could sort of like scoot around on it, kind of thing. And it had a little mouth that you could open and close. And I have memories of being in the backyard with that and feeding it grass like it was a real horse. So that might be the earliest memory I have.
Do you like real horses now?
I don't dislike real horses, but I certainly wouldn't say that I'm like, a horse fanatic or anything like that. Horses are fine. They're good.
Have you ever ride a real horse?
Yes, I've ridden a horse a few times.
How did you feel?
It's kind of fun. It's a little scary sometimes when the horse decides to, pick up speed and you don't know what to do. And I mean, the horse that's a pretty big animal. Really, you're just getting on and hoping for the best that they're going to do, what they need to do. And and not make things challenging for you. So
Yeah, it's not that simple as car, like gas, brake. So
yeah.
you never know.
No.
Tell me, how did your musical journey start?
Oh boy. Um, I, for as long as I can remember, and certainly the stories that my folks tell me, music has been something that's been important to me since day one. I think I was born hardwired to be in love with music. My parents tell a story of we were walking downtown one day. I was in a stroller, so I would have been quite young, and there was a band playing outside. So they stopped for a couple minutes to check the band out, and then they decide, okay, we've seen enough of the band, time to move on and continue our walk. And we start to pull away, and apparently I just like lost my mind in the stroller, and the only thing that would make me stop crying would be to park me in front of the band. So they had to wait until the band ended playing. Now I don't know if that story continues with the band finishes their show and then I'm all upset because they're done playing or whatever, but so they talk about that. I've got memories of being probably 6 or maybe 7 years old, playing with Legos and listening to the radio. As soon as I had the opportunity to start listening to music on my own, either through a radio or through cassette deck or record player or something like that, I was any opportunity I had to listen to music, I was taking it. In terms of actually performing music, I have a very distinct memory. In 1986, I was 12 years old. I was watching a music video show that came on Mondays through Fridays at, I think, 4:30 or maybe 5 o'clock in the afternoon on CBC, the national broadcaster here in Canada. It was called Video Hits, hosted by Samantha Taylor. I mean, this is how much I remember this, right? I remember all these details. And a video came on by a band out of Toronto called the Shuffle Demons. And they're like this jazz, funky kind of band. There are 3 saxophones, the bass and drums, and they actually got their start as buskers in Toronto and then became a more established band from that. And they had this video for their new song called Spadina Bus, which is about a public transit bus that goes up and down Spadina Street in Toronto. And it's a silly song, but it's funky and groovy. And they're dancing around the streets of Toronto, looking ridiculous in these crazy outfits and singing about this bus and rapping and playing saxophone. And I'm 12 years old and I'm watching this video on Video Hits with Samantha Taylor on CBC. And it was like, literally like, that's what I want to do with my life. I want to be those people right there. And it was kind of from that point on that it was a decision that, okay, I need to be performing music. And I would say even now, I was 12 years old then, I'm 48 now. Even today, I would list them as a very strong influence in how I'm a musician on stage today. So they've really stuck with me through the test of time. And I've been very fortunate to actually become friends with the main guy from the Shuffle Demons, who's still down in Toronto. His name is Rich Underhill. The Shuffle Demons are still going, but he also has a solo career and plays with a bunch of other bands around the Toronto area. But I've been so fortunate enough to actually start a friendship with him and be able to talk with him and stuff. And how many people out there get to develop a relationship with one of their principal influences? Like, talk about fortunate. And what's also fortunate too around that whole idea of don't meet your heroes, he's an absolutely fantastic, wonderful human being. So I met my hero and he turned out to be just as awesome as I ever would have wanted him to be. So
was it the moment you decided to do a tattoo in honor of their old logo?
That is something that I had been thinking about for years and years and years and years. And then finally I just figured, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. So I might be the only person in the world who has a tattoo of the Shuffle Demons logo. Certainly the size that I have it on my forearm.
Yeah,
right here. And it's just something I can always look at and just remember how this insanity all started.
Yeah, and when, like, after that show, you were 12 years old, did you go to musical school right away, or what was the story next?
So I'd done piano lessons before that,
Hmm.
because my folks knew that I was interested in music, so they were just trying to, do what they could to foster that interest. And I was a terrible piano student. I think if you had suggested to any of my piano teachers when I was younger that I would maybe continue on and take music in university, or continue to play into my adulthood, they'd probably just laugh in your face. They would think I was probably the stupidest, most ridiculous thing they'd ever heard. So um, I saw that video. I didn't take any private lessons. I just continued with the regular music band stuff that they offered in school. So I would have been in grade 7 when that happened. And in grade 7, we weren't allowed to play the saxophone yet. We had to start, you had to do 1 year of clarinet or flute. And then you could, in grade 8, transfer over and start playing saxophone. So I was doing clarinet in grade 7. And I actually, in grade 7 music, I actually got kicked out of band because I was just, I don't know, a poor performer, Anyways, I got kicked out of band in grade 7. Grade 8, I did not get kicked out of band, and I did not get kicked out of band after that anymore as we went into high school. The high school that I went to, I was really fortunate because it had not only the regular band program where you could, play saxophone and trumpet and, trombone and all that stuff, but we also had a strings program for whatever reason at our high school. So in my high school, I was lucky enough to be able to take 2 music classes, where if I went to any other high school, I would have only been able to take 1. So I was taking 1 class on saxophone and I was taking another in the strings. I was learning how to play the double bass.
And what was the first band you joined as I don't know. What, and tell me what was first, like saxophone or bass guitar, even though you had 2 lessons?
The saxophone was first, and the saxophone is the instrument that I went to university to study. I transitioned over to bass, full time as an adult, just because there was more work as a bass player than there was as a saxophone player. So that was more necessity than anything else. Now that I've spent the amount of time that I've spent as a principal bass guitar player, I've kind of realized that maybe I should have always been a bass guitar player. And maybe had saxophone on the side. I think my brain is wired better for the role that a bass guitar has in a band. But that being said, there are certainly times when I miss playing saxophone, and I had a lot of fun doing it. The first band was probably a band called the Suicide Kings, which actually sounds like a very sort of gothy kind of thing. But what it was in reference to is in the deck of cards, there is a king. I can't remember if it's the king of hearts or the king of diamonds or whatever it is, but the way that it's drawn is the king is like this with a sword, and it looks like the sword's going through its head. So it's referred to as the Suicide King. So they got the name of the band from the playing cards. It was like a blues and R&B band. And I started playing with them when I was, I think, 16 years old. We did some shows because I looked like this when I was 16. So I was
So
able to
nothing
get
changed, yes?
Yeah. So I was able to get into bars without anybody asking any questions. So I was able to play the shows when I was too young to actually legally be there.
Did they ever ask you for your license?
No, because I look like this.
Yeah, but like they could ask.
No. I think Canada's maybe a little bit too relaxed about that. I still get asked in the United States from time to time for my ID, and I'm 48 now.
So I saw this nice photo you shared, like nice meme, or I don't know how to. Here, mate, I don't make the rules. 1 beer, a couple beers, few beers. So I guess there is where your love to beers from. Yes.
I was actually did not drink any alcohol, consume any drugs or anything like that for the longest time. It was, I think, in my mid-20s when I started to actually start drinking beer. And the reason for that was the beer that we would get exposed to in high school when everybody else started drinking was garbage beer. It was like the cheapest, most awful tasting beer you could get. And the reason why people were drinking beer in high school is not because they liked the taste of it, is because they wanted to get drunk. And I didn't really want to get drunk, and I didn't like the taste of it, so I didn't drink any beer. And then it wasn't until I had my first Guinness which would have been in my it was like mid-20s or something like that, I had a sip of it and I'm like, oh, I get it now. This actually tastes good. So I very much enjoy drinking Guinness. The picture that you're talking about is specifically about Guinness and the attitudes around enjoying a nice night out, drinking lots of Guinness with your friends. I tend not to be the type of person who drinks heavily. I've only been drunk a handful of times in my entire life. So as much as that image I find funny, and certainly there can be times where I'm more than happy to drink more than maybe I should. For the most part, if I'm going out, I'm only really having one or two beers.
Is there some interesting story connected to time when you got drunk?
No. I mean, it was
Okay.
just, a party with friends or whatever. And I didn't have any, I wasn't driving home that night and I didn't have anything I had to wake up for the next day. So yeah, just got excited and had fun and drank more than I should. That's all.
Nothing special. Got it. And
No.
I had a question, what is your favorite beer? But it makes no sense because you already answered that question. So 13 Tunes of Halloween. What is the
Yes.
story behind?
So 13 Tunes of Halloween actually comes from the 12 Tunes of Christmas, or 12 Tunes of Xmas, which I'm currently in the middle of. Today is day 4, I think, of the 12 Tunes. So this started, boy, this is a bit of a story. Okay. So this, the origin of 12 Tunes of Christmas is 2 parts. One is a friend of mine who'd been working retail his whole career was just belly aching about all the terrible Christmas music that he was getting subjected to working retail, which I get. You walk into any mall or any store and they're playing the same 7 songs on repeat. And certainly, and I did my fair share of retail work back in high school and early university days. I totally get it. After like a day, you don't want to hear those songs anymore, and you're subjected to them for at least a month, if not up to 2 months long now that we're pushing that Christmas season so much earlier in retail. So belly aching on that, and knowing that there's a lot of good songs out there that are maybe Christmas songs that are not getting played. So you can't just like blanket the whole like I hate Christmas music because you hate the 12 songs that they play at your store ad nauseum. So part of it was to show that there's actually enjoyable Christmas music to listen to. It's just the stuff that maybe doesn't make it to the playlist of your local store. But it was also in memory and in honor of a local DJ who used to have a couple of shows on. This is back when the radio stations were still privately owned, before they got all bought up by the big media conglomerates. And now like every radio station's the same from city to city. So we had a privately owned station here in Ottawa called Shea 106. The station still exists, but it's now owned by one of the larger media companies. And there was a DJ on there, lived in my neighborhood. Apparently his basement was just like head to ceiling in records. And he had 3 specialty shows, one just on jazz, one just on blues, and then one on like the roots of rock and roll type music, early rock and roll music. And every year, certainly for the jazz show and the blues show, he would have a special Christmas edition. And sometimes that Christmas edition show would be a part 1 and a part 2 running over 2 weeks. And once I found those shows, especially the jazz one, but the blues one as well, I fell in love. And it was something I looked forward to every year, this Christmas edition of the Jazz 106 show and the Blues 106 show. And I would record them on cassettes so that I could listen to them. And I just fell in love with Christmas music played in a jazz style. I'm not the biggest jazz fan, but for whatever reason, Christmas music in a jazz style just works for me. And when I had this conversation with my buddy in retail and he was complaining about that, and I was thinking about all these beautiful jazz renditions. And the cool thing with jazz, because it's so much about how the artist interprets a song and the improvisation that goes into all the solos and stuff like that, you can listen to the same song 4 times. You can hear Jingle Bells played by 7 different people, and they're all going to be unique and different. So you don't like, you could hear it 7 times in a row from 7 different performers, And because they're all unique and different, it's not like hearing Jingle Bells 7 times in a row, which would drive anybody insane because that song is really mind-numbingly boring. So it was in honor of that DJ who had passed away, and his, even before he passed away, that radio station got sold and he didn't have his shows anymore. And just having these wonderful memories in high school of listening to his shows, and that being so much part of my own Christmas tradition. And then hearing this complaint about, oh, I hate Christmas music because I only get to listen to these 12 songs working in retail and stuff like that. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to put together now a thing where I can share all this other great Christmas stuff that you're not going to hear at the, on the radio necessarily, certainly not in the stores when you're out shopping and stuff like that, because there's a lot of really good music. And then I started doing the 12 tunes of Christmas. This is now to finally get back to answer your question. I started doing the 12 tunes of Christmas, and I love Halloween. Halloween is on par, if not even more exciting for me than Christmas is. And it's like, you know what? There's lots of really cool, fun Halloween, or at least songs that would be appropriate for Halloween because they're spooky, they're scary, that kind of stuff. So it's like, all right, well, I'm doing the 12 tunes of Christmas. Wouldn't it be fun to also do like a 12 tunes of Halloween? Oh, no, wait, not 12 tunes, 13 tunes, because 13, that's the scary number. Ooh, yeah. I can't really do 666 tunes at Halloween because, I mean, that would take 2 years to run through. But so now every year on my social media, and anybody is more than welcome to listen in if they're interested, I always use the same hashtag. It's hashtag 12, like the number 12, 12, tunes of Xmas, and 13, hashtag 1313 tunes of Halloween. And I run it on anywhere that I'm on a social media thing, and it's just for fun and for sharing music. I love sharing music with people. I love being somebody who can introduce somebody to a song or a band that they might not have ever experienced before, and see the joy it brings to them to be able to hear that, and just, yeah, sharing the joy of listening to good music.
Can you relate to that dad who's raising his daughter according to proper music and proper movies?
Are you talking about that? It was like an Onion article I think I posted or something like that about raising your daughter, listen to good music, and then by doing that you've like completely removed her from any of like her own specific cultural touchstones of I'm constantly fighting, especially now that I am pushing 50. I'm constantly fighting with the fact that popular culture is not made for me anymore. Popular culture is made for people who are teenagers and into their 20s and stuff. It's not made for me. It's not marketed for me. I don't get it. And of course I don't get it. I'm not 16 years old. And I don't want to fall into that, like, oh, back in my day music sounded like
not yet at least.
I don't ever want to be that person, even if I don't get it. And there's a lot of music out there today that I don't get. I'll fully admit it, especially, hip hop music, which was something that I grew up on and loved back when I was 16, 17, 18 years old. And I listen to the stuff that's considered popular in that genre now. And it's like, what? But I don't want to be, I don't want to be that. So it's not for me. And I accept that. And I have to accept that it's not for me. And at the end of the day, if that music, those movies, those TV shows, whatever, that popular culture, if that is bringing joy or the same type of emotional reaction to the kids that it's made for, the people that it's made for, if it's giving them the same emotional reaction that I got when I was that age for the music that was made for me, the movies that were made for me, then awesome. I am thrilled for them, because that's all that matters. That's what it's made for. That's who it's made for. And every now and then I'll find something that I can lock in on that wasn't made for me, and that's great. Awesome. Yay. But it's their time. Let them have their time. And I can guarantee you, when they're my age, they're going to be looking at the stuff that the 16-year-olds are listening to, and they're going to be going, oh, this is garbage. So
yeah, I feel like nowadays music are losing words. So before you have more words in songs, now you have less. And I guess somewhere in the future, you will just have one word constantly repeated.
I mean, maybe, but at the same time, you can look at that song Surfin' Bird that was put out in the early 60s, I think it was. And the lyrics to that song is bird, 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 bird is the word.
Okay.
That's the entire lyrics of that song. So we can't say back in my day, the lyrics were better when I can point to you to a song that literally goes bird, 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 bird is the word.
So nothing new. Okay, get it. And you know, Pat, I just love your sense of humor. So have you ever done comedian stand-ups?
No, I have not. I'm a
Have you
huge
ever
fan of
thought about
stand-ups, and I have
that?
a friend that is a stand-up in Toronto, and he's great. We went to music school together, and then he transitioned into stand-up comedy, and he's very funny. And I love stand-ups. I watch a lot of them. I follow them. I nerd out to stand-up comedy in a very similar way that I nerd out to music, because I find that there's actually a lot of parallels. But I've never tried it, and I don't know if I'd be good at it, to be honest. It's
I
a
guess
very
you'll
unique skill set, for sure.
I guess you'll be. You never know unless you try.
That's true.
So why did you name your yacht Harmony?
I didn't. It was named Harmony when I bought it.
Okay. Did you
Next
choose by
question.
name?
What's that?
Did you choose the yacht by the name?
No, in fact, I didn't know that it was named Harmony until we sort of got there to take a look at it. We bought it because it was the right size and the right price in the right condition.
Easy.
It could have been named Garbage Yacht, and I still would have purchased it.
What do you like about sailing the most?
When you first get out on the water and you've raised your sails, you still have your engine running, because you never want to be in a position where you're out on the water and have no power. So you've got your engine running, you hoist your sails up, you get positioned into the winds, you've got power coming over the sails from the wind. And the second you turn that engine off and you get the quiet of that engine disappearing, and now all you're hearing is the water and the wind traveling over that sail, and you realize that you are now being propelled across the water entirely by the power of the wind and the physics of the way that the wind interacts with the sail and the boat. It's that moment for me that sort of makes the whole rest of the day. So it's just, I'm out there for that 1 second that I turn the motor off and it goes quiet, and it's just like, I am now moving because of wind. And how cool is that? And this is something that like connects me back through, hundreds, thousands. I don't know when sailing started, but it's neat. It's the very first time it happened, it kind of blew my mind a little bit, and it still blows my mind every time we do it. And that's it.
That's kind of something you will never get tired of.
No, I don't think so. It's a really neat experience, and just realize it's like, this is just wind and it's pushing me.
And what is the hardest part of sailing?
Maintaining a boat. Apparently water and like everything else don't mix. Like water likes to erode all things, including boats. So
got it. What was your favorite gift from the Swiss colony?
The Swiss colony is a mail order food service from the United States out of Wisconsin. And I've got a whole bunch of family in Wisconsin. So as a kid, I grew up with, we would get the Swiss colony catalog to pick the food, and we would always sort of send off food gift basket kind of things to the family, and we'd always get some as well. And it was just a thing that I grew up. It was part of my Christmas tradition as a child. I remember just spending long times just reading through the catalog and looking at all the good looking food photos, and they'd make these cute little petit fours, like little cakes that always looked so pretty in the pictures and stuff like that. The favorite item I ever received from the Swiss Colony was this spreadable cheddar cheese that you put on a cracker or a piece of bread or something like that, that I just remember tasting so good. And unfortunately, they don't deliver to Canada anymore. So I don't get Swiss Colony anymore because they don't deliver to Canada. And it annoys me because, come on, deliver to Canada, guys. We're not that far away.
Why don't you ask some of your family to deliver it for you?
I could, but I question, I mean, and this might be the reason why they don't deliver to Canada. It might have something to do with meat and dairy crossing the border. I don't know.
Okay, got it.
And if my family really loved me, they would know that I would like some Swiss Colony for Christmas, and they'd just send it. I shouldn't have to ask for something like that.
Oh, yeah. You post different locations where you play as your tonight's office.
Yes.
So what was a tonight's office you couldn't stand?
Do I want to say this publicly? I'm not going to name the venue.
You can just describe it.
I'm not going to name the venue. There was one venue that we performed at that was in such a state of not only disrepair, but lack of cleanliness that in between the sets, I went to go to the washroom. And this will sound like an exaggeration, like I'm being hyperbolic. This is the absolute literal truth, that as I was in the washroom peeing into the urinal, I was standing in about 1.5 inches of urine on the floor.
Did it influence your play?
It influenced my desire to never return to that venue.
Yeah, that's for sure. But what about your play?
No, the show must go on, right? You got to put on the best show that you can, regardless of whatever the circumstances are. Whether you're pissed off at how the show's being run, whether you're disappointed with the number of people that have showed up, whether you're annoyed because you've got a piece of gear that's failing on you, even if you're sick. I've played shows with running a fever of. Unfortunately, and this might be because I have American parents, I understand body temperature in imperial, not in metric. So for all the American people following along on this, they'll know exactly the temperature I'm talking about. For anybody else, they might not know what I'm talking about, but I did a show running a fever of 102 before. So I'm of the opinion that regardless of anything else external that's going on, or even how you are feeling yourself, you should always be performing like you're playing the biggest show you've ever played to the largest number of screaming and cheering fans possible. It's for me, the performance is all about making sure that your audience is having the best time of their life coming to see you.
And what was your favorite place to play?
Currently, my favorite place to play is a venue here in town called the House of Targ, which is actually owned by a Ukrainian.
That's nice.
And the House of Targ's whole thing is pinballs and pierogies. So it is by day, it's a pinball and arcade with, old vintage arcade machines and pinball games and stuff like that. And they've got a restaurant there where they make handmade pierogies. A number of they've got the traditional pierogi, but then they've got all sorts of other ones, including a dessert pierogi, which is actually quite nice to have. And there's good beer, and the place isn't anything exciting to look at. It is a very kind of like it's a very punk rock kind of establishment. It is not fancy dining or any stretch of the imagination, but I love the people who work there. I love the owner. I love the attitude. I love the patrons that come out. I always have an absolutely amazing time, whether I'm performing there or whether I'm seeing other people play there. It's a beautiful place full of beautiful, sweaty people having a great time listening to music and eating pierogies and drinking beer and playing pinball and having a great time. That's, I think, hands down my favorite place to play in the city right now. Historically, I kind of want to say this one venue called Barrymore's, which does still exist, but they don't really book anything there anymore. But at the same time, Barrymore's was only fun to play when there was a lot of people there. When it was empty, just due to the size and the shape of the room, it was actually very challenging to play there, just due to how the sound bounced around the room if there weren't bodies there to absorb it. But it was a really interesting venue to play at, certainly for the types of venues that we have here in Ottawa. And then there was the bar where I kind of grew up as a musician in, called the Whipping Post, named after the Allman Brothers song, not because it was some freaky S&M club. The Whipping Post, I've got nothing but fond and beautiful memories for that place, though it was tiny, and not anything that was really, exciting. I just grew up there and loved the owner and had a great relationship with everybody who worked there. And at one point in my university days, I was playing there, guaranteed I was playing there 3 nights a week, just as regular residence bands, and then any other gigs on top of that. So it's hard not to have lots of nostalgic love for that venue, which now no longer exists. But
Yeah, totally. And tell me, please, when did you start building Lego?
Oh, I don't know. When I got my first kit, which is before I really remember. Yeah, I've always been playing with Lego. Who doesn't want to play with Lego? Come on. It's like one of the funnest toys ever.
Yeah, it's an excuse to have a kid, like when you have a kid, you can go buy some Lego for sure.
Yeah, well,
that works for me. So
yeah, I've got Lego that is like 100% my Lego and not purchased for my son. It was purchased and gifted to me, and I put it together and have a great time doing it because it's fun. I enjoy it.
What is your favorite set?
I have this really cool like haunted house, like just giant haunted house thing that I put together every Halloween as part of my regular Halloween festivities. That was given to me for my birthday, I think. It was either a birthday gift or a Christmas gift. I can't remember which one it was, but yeah, that one's super cool. And not only is it like a big haunted house thing, but it's a haunted house stroke like amusement park ride kind of set. So it makes me think of like when I would go to like Disney World and take like the Haunted Mansion, which was like a haunted house, but then also like a fun ride to do. So it's one of those kinds of things to put together. So it's just, it's so much fun.
Yeah, totally agree. Once you reshared a post and you wrote, "Yeah, guilty. My toxic trait is telling people to take care of themselves while I'm running on 3 hours of sleep, enough caffeine to kill a horse, and an Oreo." So what are you the most guilty of? 3 hours of sleep, enough caffeine to kill a horse, or an Oreo?
3 hours of sleep.
Why so?
I've got really bad sleep hygiene. I tend to stay up way too late. Tend to go to bed. I mean, I'm trying to be a lot better, so now I'm going to bed around midnight. But I mean, it used to be not unheard of for me to go to bed sometime between 2 and 3 in the morning, and waking up to start my day at 7 or something like that in the morning. Got to get the kid off to school and start work. Why? I don't know. I feel like if there's like morning people and night people, I'm a night person. I tend to sort of wake up in the evenings and feel creative and wanting to try things. I've read stuff about like sleep procrastination. Maybe that's something I suffer from. It feels like the only time I have left in the day to do the things that I want to focus on just for me. So like, playing music or maybe watching a movie or a show that I want to watch that, maybe my son doesn't want to enjoy or something. Like I don't get that time to start doing that until 9-10 o'clock at night. And then I want to jam in all the me time I can. It's either that, or there was a period of time where I was working way harder than I should have been. for, I'm sure, all sorts of different reasons. And I was feeling the need to have to work till 2 and 3 in the morning just to get done the stuff at work that I needed to get done, or felt that I needed to get done at the time. So it's just a combination of all those things that has made it that I stay up far too late, and then don't sleep in the morning because I got to wake up and get the kid to school and go to work and do all that stuff.
So you told that you are playing music up to 9 or 10, and then it's a me time. So what are you usually doing in the me time?
That's when I'm playing music, is the me time.
So it's after 10 p.m.
Yeah. So I'll like come down here into my office and throw the headphones on and pick up my bass and play music. And when I start doing that, then time disappears, right? So like it feels like I've been playing for 15, 20 minutes, and I look at the clock and I've been playing for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it's like lose yourself in the music.
Yeah.
Now I get the meaning of those words. Now I really get the meaning of those words. Also, once you share one fun meme, I don't know if it's a meme or like, I'm gonna wing it, me about something I most definitely should not wing. So what are you winging right now you shouldn't definitely wing?
I'm going to say like anything that has to do with my career. I mean, if you want to talk about imposter syndrome, I'm full of it, especially somebody who came from, I went to school for music, and then all of a sudden I started working, building websites, because before I got into community, I was a web developer, and I was surrounded by people who were coming from computer science and computer programming backgrounds. And here I am, like a music student, working alongside them, and they're having these conversations about these, like technical ideas that, would come out of being, a computer engineering student that I've got no idea. I don't know what you guys are talking about. This doesn't make it a bunch of nerds. Come on. So that has just continued with me through my entire career, whether it was as a web developer or when I was doing data analysis or now into community, just this constant feeling of like, I don't belong here. I have somehow bullshitted my way for 22, 23 years, just somehow convincing people that I know what the hell I'm doing when I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So that's the winging it when I probably shouldn't be winging it.
And what do you do next after those thoughts?
I continue to wing it.
Got it. So, I really wish to have the sky as the limit to our conversation, but time is the limit. So let's jump to rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So
I'll try and do rapid fire answers.
Pizza or burger?
Pizza.
Building Lego or playing keyboards?
Playing keyboards.
Hey, what is your favorite color?
Probably purple.
Got it. You recently posted 7 albums to know me, and you mentioned that this is an almost impossible task because you feel like you'd need 70. So I'll make this task even more impossible, even harder. What is one song to know me?
I feel like Bustin' Loose by Charlie Brown and the Soul Searchers.
If you were a superhero, what superpower would you have?
I think the ability to like move super fast.
Who do you learn from in the community world? Name one person.
Well, that seems unfair, but if I can only name one person, only name one person, the person that I've learned the most from up until now is Carrie Melissa Jones.
It's totally unfair. I understand what you're talking about, but let's make it a little more fair. So name 2 people whose community life journey you are happy to hear about.
No, I'm gonna refuse to play that game. I want to hear about everybody's community life journey. I am happy to hear about anybody who is feeling successful, feeling empowered, who's feeling good about the work that they're doing. I refuse to answer that one the way that you want me to answer it.
Also, so you still having it. And Is there one question that I definitely should have asked you but didn't?
Oh gosh, I've got no idea. I don't know.
Oh,
It was fun. It was a good conversation.
and it's only the beginning, Pat, I promise you, because I have so many questions to ask you. And like, we've just started and it's only already 1 hour past.
There you go.
So
That's
just
what
like
happens
that.
when you talk somebody who ask questions to somebody who likes to talk. So
Yeah, and it's so amazing to get to know you better, not like by those small piece of times or those small 5 minutes, but to understand you, like to listen to your story and to, sometimes when I'm talking to people in community life, I may know them from the other side, but you told me exactly what I was thinking about you. So even those small moments of time where like you are so bright person that like even with those small talks we had, I had a great picture of you and you just proved it. And thank you very much for being so amazing. Every time when I meet you, I'm just having a smile on my face. I don't know why, but that's how it works. So thank you very much for gifting your time for me, for having this conversation. I enjoyed it very much. And yeah, I would
well,
love to meet you one day in person. You never know, like
hey, I would love that as well.
so
Maybe
hope
not in
to.
Ukraine, but I'd come to Poland.
Anyway, maybe I'm coming. I came to
Hey,
Canada.
always come to Canada.
You know?
Yuri, thank you so much for having me on. Absolute honor to be asked. Certainly looking at the company that has preceded me and will likely proceed me. I feel like I'm a mouse among giants. And just.
It's just imposter syndrome. I'm telling you, that's exactly it.
But the one thing I am going to say is, if you want to talk about putting beautiful, positive energy out into the universe, what you're doing with this, what you're doing with the Between Two Watercoolers, especially with what you've personally had to go through in the past year, um, finding somebody who constantly has a smile on their face, who's constantly seeing the beautiful, wonderful things in other people in the world out there. If we could only be half as good as you, Yuri, the world would be a significantly better place, I'm sure. So
I'm blushing, but yeah, Pat, I just really want you to know that it's not only because of me, but because of people I'm talking to. So once again, thank you very much for this conversation. Thank you very
no,
much for
thank you,
being
Yuri.
you.
Thank you.
And see you in the community world.
That's it.
So
Yep.
thank you. Bye.
All right.
Yeah.
See ya.